Welcome to Recalculating Small Business. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America. Your hosts are Don Mazzella and Dan Perkins. Don Mazzella is the editor-in-chief of the Small Business Digest. Dan Perkins is a registered investment advisor with 43 years' experience in managing money.
Dan Perkins here, your co-host, along with Don Mazzella of Recalculating for Small Business. Our radio program is dedicated to you, helping the small business owners increase their profits. We draw our name from Recalculating, voted the best small business book of 2017 by the Independent Press. In this book, it features ways to grow your small business. Now, here's Don Mazzella.
Our next guest is Stephanie Cegielski. She's spokesman for the ICSC, which she's going to explain to our listeners is, and she's here to talk about Cyber Weekend, what shoppers did, what they didn't do, and what it means for the future. Stephanie, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, Stephanie, tell us what ICSC stands for, first off, and why they collect the data.
Sure. We're the International Council of Shopping Centers, and we serve the global retail real estate industry. We have about 70,000 members worldwide, with about 55,000 of those here domestically in the United States. So we essentially help support and represent your local mall, your local grocery center, your big box stores, anywhere where retail and services might be there to sell to the customer. We represent that industry.
And you just collected some data on Cyber Weekend.
We
which
did.
I hate the name of. Let's go back to what it originally was, Thanksgiving Weekend. And
that's how I refer to it.
I'm sorry?
That's how I refer to it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm old-fashioned. But now, what are some of this data, and what is it telling you?
Sure. What we saw is that, on Black Friday, over 100 million adults were out shopping, whether it was for themselves or for gifts or for food, anything to do with the holiday season. They were out doing it. About 87% of those shoppers who went out on Thanksgiving or Black Friday took advantage of both in-store purchases and online purchases. So there was definitely a move to the omni-channel and to use both of those vehicles to make purchases over the weekend.
Well, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you because Stephanie comes armed with some great statistics, which I'm sure you'd love to hear.
Sure, thank you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I'm kind of the numbers guy, so that's why he turned it over to me. Let's talk a little bit about differences. How was this weekend different than last year? Good, bad, indifferent?
Well, I think we saw just as many people out and about this year. About 3/4 of the people who were out on Thanksgiving or Black Friday spent the same or more than they did last year. So people were definitely spending. We know that people were looking for deals, as they are throughout the years. They're very price conscious these days. And, overall for the weekend, they spent on average close to $400.
Over the weekend. And what do you expect? What are you expecting today on Cyber Monday? Or do you know those numbers? We
expect that, consumers intend to spend on average about $270 today. And by demographic, baby boomers plan to spend the most at about $340. So almost 60% of adults plan to make some sort of a purchase today, whether it be online or in a store or online collecting it at a store.
So that if I understood what you said, the volume of people is about the same, and the volume transaction is about the same, maybe up a little in store over Thanksgiving weekend. Is that a fair comparison?
That is.
Are you surprised at that, given that all of the economic data says that Americans are more optimistic than they've been in almost a decade?
No, I'm not. Because partly I think what's happening here is that the holiday spending season is just becoming longer. In fact, we're actually seeing people are a little bit behind on getting their holiday shopping started this year. So as we ramp up in the weeks leading up to Christmas, we're going to see a lot more spending. So it's just been kind of a slow start, but it's not a slow start in the spending. It's just people aren't quite getting out, and some of that has to do with they're waiting to see who offers the best deal so that they can get the best price.
We have had a number of people on this program from the retail sector or talking about the retail sector, and a couple of things that we hear about that the malls by the end of this calendar year will have seen about 8,500 vacancies, and that a number of national brand retailers have gone out of business. Some of the other big box stores are closing and diminishing their online or their footprint, going to online as opposed to bricks and mortar. Do you expect that trend to continue?
Well, I expect that we are likely to see upwards of 8,000 announced store closings by the end of the year. Many of those have already happened, as they typically happen within the first quarter of the year. This year has been a bit of an anomaly for that. However, you did see, companies like Radio Shack, who have gone through a number of bankruptcies, shut their 1,000 stores this year. Sears and Kmart, once again, going through downsizing. So some of that, I think, has been happening for a while. It is possible that some will reduce their footprint and focus on the markets where they're doing the best, which is just a good business decision. But what we're also seeing is, in those 8,000 announced closures, we've also seen upwards of 4,000 to 5,000 of announced store openings. So that is some well-established retailers opening additional stores, some being previously internet-only sellers coming to the brick-and-mortar marketplace. So they're seeing the value in having that physical location for people to go to.
Thank you. That's interesting. One of the other things that, while it's not directly related to retail, it is indirectly. We have had people on the show talking about, example, the appliance and the automobile industry, that the pressure on sales, reduced prices, whatever you want to call it, has created a situation that many people, especially in people who follow the automobile industry, when you're seeing ads where they're offering 20% off the sticker price, that the automobile industry and perhaps other consumer product industries are going through price erosion, that their margins are going to be consistently under attack, and it's going to be more and more difficult for them to make a profit and stay in business.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I do definitely think that consumers are much more price conscious and are always looking for a good deal. Some of that is driven by, smartphones and the ability to do much more research online than they used to be able to. But I also think that it's an issue of quality. People are still willing to pay for good quality items. So they're willing to pay that higher price because they're either loyal to that brand or the quality of the item is good and doesn't warrant them wanting a discount.
Can you give me an example of something that doesn't warrant a discount?
Well, I think that's up to the individual. I know. So for me, example, I'm a loyal Nordstrom shopper. So I don't necessarily go to Nordstrom always looking for a sale. I will go there and buy something full price because they provide me good customer service. I know that I can return it easily. Whereas I might go to a different department store, a different retailer, and be looking for a deal because I don't necessarily have that same loyalty to another retailer.
Okay.
Dan, can I jump in? And ask Stephanie, I have the advantage you don't of their press release, but in it, Stephanie, your group says that 60% anticipate in December that they'll have similar deals and/or promotions, and 12% expected deals and promotions won't be as good. Do you want to comment on that? What does that seem to indicate to you?
Well, I think it goes back to what I've said is that, with the holiday season getting longer, retailers are trying to keep people's attention longer, which means that they are offering deals and promotions and people are expecting them, all the way up until Christmas. There's always going to be a percentage of people who don't agree with that. In this case, we came out at 12% who think that they will find the best deals of the season, over that Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Well, there's in today's Wall Street Journal, there was an article about the changing in shopping centers and the fact that gyms are being welcomed now, and that shopping centers are more and more turning them over to restaurants and other people who attract the events. Would you want to comment on that and tell us what do you think that means?
Absolutely. That's definitely a trend that we're seeing. Some of that is stemming from just a shift in demographics. So you have this, aging baby boomer population who is, they're coming into empty nester years. They're eating out more. They're not necessarily staying home and cooking. They're also looking for more healthcare options. So you'll see, urgent care facilities or whatnot moving in, but they're looking to stay healthy, and so they'll go to those gyms. At the same time, you have millennials who, we're a little bit later to marriage and children, are still very health conscious, and want to spend their money more on experience than items necessarily. And so they're definitely helping to drive the fitness craze as well. And that's more than just your typical large membership gym. That can be yoga studios. That can be spin cycle studios. We're just seeing a lot of different things happening there. And we know that restaurants are really changing, the landscape as well. It's not just your classic mall food court. It's Cheesecake Factory and California Pizza Kitchen and a lot of different large restaurants that are coming and moving in. And, over the last 3 years, there's been an increase in jobs in that sector to the tune of almost 1 million jobs. So we definitely know it's happening.
Dan, I'm going to ask one more question and turn it over to you, but there's one I think you'd like. Mm-hmm. What do you think the $15 minimum wage that's coming out in the various parts of the country will have on the retail marketplace?
I think that's a question that's better suited for an economist. There's a lot of factors that go into that wage, and it's hard to say what could happen. Some, it may be better, it may be worse. It's just hard to say, and it depends on a blanket wage increase like that may be great for some local markets, and it may not be for others. So I think that's kind of a market-by-market issue.
Back to you, Dan.
So let me look at the redistribution of the space. My daughter-in-law works for a major real estate developer in New Jersey and in New York, and they have seen two things that are happening in their portfolio. Strip malls are being torn down and looked to do something else with, and some larger malls that have a very high vacancy rate, they're actually converting them into assisted living facilities and taking all the retail out. There is because of the millennials, there's a bigger need for space to create these assisted living facilities, and these massive shopping centers or significant shopping centers can be rehabilitated into, in fact, assisted living facilities. Do you see that as a one-off, or is it something that's likely to continue?
Well, I think that it's likely to continue, maybe not specifically for assisted living facilities, although you do have that aging baby boomer population who was, before the millennials came along, they were the largest population. But I think that, whatever a community's needs are and what it dictates in that space is what will happen to that property. So that mall may be converted into a community college. It could be converted into an assisted living facility. If it's an issue of the mall cannot sustain itself, but there is a use for that property, then it will likely be transformed into something else, because good real estate is still good real estate. So if that community warrants something different, then developers should absolutely look at doing that. That's not to say that there won't be other local retail that still benefits from that shift.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your featured book. I want to tell you about a recent interview I had with Bob Bethel, a turnaround specialist with lots of success in small business. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. He tells us of his life successes and failures that have made him and his clients so successful. Over the years, Bob has brought 77 companies back from the brink and changed them into thriving, profitable businesses. His energy is amazing, and at 74, he proves that you can still have a great deal to give others if you just try. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. One insight struck me was that most companies do not have a plan. The old Chinese proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there, is true today. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. This has been Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz featured book. So we're seeing stores like Abercrombie & Finch, which have a large footprint. You mentioned Radio Shack, large footprint that's closed. There's some other specialty retailers that are cutting back. The trendy stuff is being cut back. Are the shopping patterns changing that dramatically?
They are. People are not looking to have, I think social media has changed this a lot. People don't want the exact same outfit as everyone else, thanks to Instagram and Facebook. So they're looking for much more specialty type stores where they can get the unique outfit that maybe nobody else has. They're also, the younger millennials and the Gen Z are looking more to fast fashion. So H&M or Zara, where it's less expensive, they can get more for their money. And so there is a shift to the types of things that people want to buy.
Did you want to ask something, Don?
No, you're doing a great job.
Okay. So if I look at the way that these malls have evolved with major anchor tenants, Nordstrom, JCPenney's, Macy's, Neiman Marcus, all these big anchor tenants. When somebody like Macy's says they're going to close 23% of their stores, not only does that put a lot of people out of work, but creates a huge part of the footprint that in the shopping center, which ultimately creates vacancy, but also diminishes the traffic. The anchor tenants getting into difficulty is it not affecting the smaller tenants around the anchors?
Well, if it's, we haven't seen so much of that if it's just one anchor. Now, if, all four of them close down, then it's a possibility. But what we are seeing is in some of those locations where that anchor spot was, it's now closed, if the developer is able to, buy back that box, because many times it's owned by that retailer, it can be turned into condos or a hotel, office space that then actually still drives traffic into the mall. So there's probably there's always going to be a shift in that traffic anytime something closes, but we are seeing much more creative uses for some of those vacant spaces, and some of that's to, honestly recession-proof themselves should we find ourselves in another 2008 situation.
Right. I have a friend of my youngest son who's a restaurateur, and he has a restaurant in a small town in New Jersey. And he's had it there for about 3 years, and shortly after he moved in, he was doing really, really good business. And about 6 months after he was there was a big ShopRite shopping center or a grocery store. They closed. His volume dropped dramatically. And I was with him early this past week, and he was saying, what I really need is somebody to come in and fill in that huge ShopRite space, because ShopRite was drawing thousands of people, and people would stop and have lunch or dinner or whatever and still do their grocery shopping. So he lost that draw, which is akin to what we were talking about when an anchor tenant moves out, that loss of volume. But I would ask one more question, I guess, would be, do you see the explosion of the Internet continuing to erode the brick and mortar footprint?
Well, I think that it's soon going to become not a discussion of online versus physical, but that omni-channel convergence. So what we know is about 90% of all sales still happen in a brick and mortar environment. About 10% of those sales are online. Now, if you break that down further, only about 4% of those sales can be attributed to online-only merchants like an Amazon or an Etsy. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to just see more and more people taking advantage of the different channels in which people want to shop, and people want to have the ability to do both shopping online and in person. So it's going to really become more a conversation about convergence than the physical versus the digital.
I just want to identify Stephanie Cegielski. She's a spokesperson. What is your title over at the ICSC?
I'm the Vice President of Public Relations.
Ah, you do a great job. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a question, because I'm a little bit confused about what you just said. If I looked at the president of Macy's, Nordstrom's, Neiman Marcus, you name it, and I looked at the president of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, over the weekend, his stock position went up. He became the first 100 billionaire in the history of the world, and he did it with Amazon. And I don't see any of his peers in the brick and mortar side of the business who are anywhere near his growth and his net worth. So I'm concerned that as Amazon has now branched out into food delivery and prepared meals when they bought Whole Foods, and that they're changing the whole dynamic of how we shop, how we eat. That's a powerful force for change. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I was in a big box store. I really don't know. I basically do virtually all of my shopping online. Now, I may be an anomaly, but I have friends, and I don't. Even the wives don't go to the malls anymore. So I'm having a hard time understanding a coexistence between online and bricks and mortar, that there is a sufficient enough people in the universe who want to continue to experience the touchy-feely brick and mortar experience.
Well, I'd say a couple of things. I'd say we know that about 1% of people do all their shopping online and never go to brick and mortar. That's obviously a very small percentage of the population. We know that 70%, that millennials, the young digital generation, does 70% of their shopping in store, in person. So we know that this is still happening. And the thing I'll say about Amazon, and Amazon accounts for about 3% of all retail sales. So out of 4.7 trillion sales, Amazon is about 3% of that. They don't make money off of the goods that they sell. They make money off the services they sell. So they're cloud-based services, and listen, they're the largest web hosting platform out there. They have the most businesses that that they provide web services to. So Amazon, who has since their inception lost money every year on their merchandise sales, gets that money elsewhere, which is great. And Jeff Bezos is fantastic because he's very entrepreneurial, and he just invests in whatever he thinks will work, which is brilliant. And to your point, and not all retailers are at that point and willing to do that, and they don't have the high stock price that Amazon has. So while, I think that Amazon is definitely a disruptor and a powerhouse, I think that where their revenue is being generated is not in the traditional retail sector.
Right. Let me go back to your comment about the millennials. You said about 70% of them prefer to go to the big box stores. Does your research tell you why?
They do 70% of all millennials. They do 70% of their shopping in person.
Okay, and is there any? Can you help me understand why that is true? What is? I don't understand the attraction of the millennials wanting to go 70% of the time to a store to shop. I'm not doubting your word. I'm just trying to figure out what it means, what you're saying.
They still appreciate the personal interaction. This is a generation that spends a lot of their time in a digital environment, and they want to be around other people. They want to have good customer service, a tailored experience, social interaction, all things they can't get by buying online only.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess you would call it a big box store. I was in with my son last Friday at Home Depot up in upstate New York, and we were in the store. I couldn't find a sales clerk anywhere, nowhere. And I've been in even down in Florida where we live. The floor personnel in Home Depot and Lowe's is it's just almost non-existent. So I don't know whether they decided they didn't need it, and we're all smart enough to figure out where the screws are, but maybe. But I think that the quality of service in a lot of the big box stores and people that I talk to has diminished because it's pure overhead, and that's the first place when they lay off the people who are working the floor.
Well, and I think that's what you see in some of the retailers who are struggling. I think one of the first criticisms they typically get is a lack of customer service. I don't think that's specific to Home Depot. I think there are others out there like that.
I agree.
But so that is true, and that's are some of the business decisions that were made over the years and probably need to be reassessed and reevaluated. Yeah,
good. Don, back to you.
Dan, I hate to break it up, but Stephanie, tell us again your website where people can find this information, and thank you for a very illuminating time together.
Sure. The International Council of Shopping Centers, we're at ICSC.org.
Okay. And is the study up there as well?
Yes, all of our releases are up there under the news section.
Thank you so much for being with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Dan, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you. It was very interesting and very informative.
You're a very informative and knowledgeable person. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your featured book. I want to tell you about a recent interview I had with Bob Bethel, a turnaround specialist with lots of success in small business. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. He tells us of his life successes and failures that have made him and his clients so successful. Over the years, Bob has brought 77 companies back from the brink and changed them into thriving, profitable businesses. His energy is amazing, and at 74, he proves that you can still have a great deal to give others if you just try. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. One insight struck me was that most companies do not have a plan. The old Chinese proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there, is true today. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. This has been Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz featured book. Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz with your small business tip of the day. Do you audition new hires, especially for social media and other creative skill jobs? Actors audition for parts in plays, TV shows, movies, even commercials. If you're going to expand your social media footprint and you're thinking about hiring your own social media manager, then why not audition the applicant for the job? People can speak the lingo, but can they walk the walk? You have a right to see what they can do. When a graphic artist applies for a job, they bring in a portfolio of their work. So when you're auditioning your social media person, have them make a presentation of their success. So here's your Recalculating.biz tip of the day. Have the potential candidates for a social media job go to your website and have them make a presentation to you what they would change about your site and what the changes would do in terms of new customers and sales. A picture can be worth 1,000 words. This is Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz small business tip of the day.
Welcome back to Recalculating, the program dedicated to American small business. Now it's time to bring together our two experts, Dan Perkins and Don Mazzella, as they discuss things that are happening now that are affecting your business success.
With the holiday season underway, there are thousands of new employees to be trained. Here to help on this and other ways of adding holiday sales is Greg Lisiewski. He is the founder and CEO of BlisPay. Greg, welcome to the program.
Hey, Don. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Greg, there's a lot I want to know about your company. So tell us first a little bit about yourself, then a little bit about your company, and finally your website before we go any further.
Okay, great. The company is called BlisPay, BlisPay, and we are a point-of-sale financing platform that serves both merchants and consumers. The primary goal of our business is to enable merchants to have a financing solution for their customers. So in our case, that means 6 months, no payments, no interest on all purchases over $199, as well as 2% cash back. If you're a store selling bigger ticket items, you can sign up for BlisPay, let your customers know about it, and the product is meant to help you sell more goods today and give your customers the option to pay it off over time as they wish, and many will pay it off within 6 months, and others can borrow the money for longer and take longer to pay it down. As you say, if a merchant or a consumer wants to learn more, they can visit us online at www.blispay.com. Again, that's BlisPay.
Okay, you mentioned two things. Up to $199. Is it more if a customer spends more than $199, or must he spend a minimum of $199 to get it? And also, do you have a cashback program? Did I hear it right?
Yeah, good questions, Don. You did. So our product works. You can actually use our product for a purchase of any amount. But if it's over $199, for that transaction, you will get 6 months of no payments, no interest if paid in full. On any transaction, so if it's your $5 latte or your $500 Chromebook purchase, on either of those you would get 2% cash back, or on both of those.
But is it like an instant? You sign up for a new credit card right there. Is that how it works, or is there something different?
Your experience, you're right. Our experience is built to support any channel. So if you're physically in a store, you apply for a BlisPay product on your phone, and at the end of that experience, if you're approved, you get a digital BlisPay Visa card, and you give that to your associate at your store, and they will key it in, and it will process just like any other Visa transaction. If you're online, a similar experience, except you could apply through your browser, and you end up with a digital card. And that's for the first purchase, and then 7 to 10 days later, we'll actually mail a physical BlisPay Visa card to customers that they can use up to their credit limit anywhere Visa is accepted.
Well, there's a lot of questions I have, but I know Dan has as well. So I'll turn it over to Dan to start the ball rolling.
Thank you. Thanks, Don. Greg, I'm curious about your company. Would you say that your company is in one of the new fintech companies?
We are definitely a fintech company, and BlisPay itself is relatively new. We were founded in 2014, but only launched our product April of 2016, so a little over a year and a half ago.
And what's been your success?
Our success is fortunately been the reaction of the merchant and consumer communities to our product. So we've enabled now north of 1,000 merchants to make financing available to their customers, and we're seeing good success in terms of customers signing up, driving sales with those merchant partners of ours. And then once we have the customer, they can shop anywhere Visa's accepted, not just in our partner network, and customers are doing that as well.
So is your cashback program in addition to what cashback they might get from Visa or MasterCard or whoever?
No, our cashback program is in lieu of. So our product is actually meant to be in lieu of. So if you were normally going to pull out your credit union credit card to make a transaction where you might be getting 1% cash back and just the normal 25 days to pay it off, with our product you would get, on a bigger purchase, you would get 6 months to pay off that transaction, and you would get 2% cash back.
Hmm. And so how do the Visa International look at you?
Visa, the company, likes the fact that we're innovating on top of their platform. So many of the fintech players in the space are entering it, looking to disrupt many parts of the value chain, if you will, including the payment network. So they're building payment methods outside of existing payment networks, often called closed-loop networks. And we looked at the market and said that requires, we don't think that's the best way to do it. So we wanted to go ahead and innovate on top of an existing payment network, which solves a couple of problems in a pretty material way. It makes launching our product super easy for merchants of any size, because they don't have to change anything about their point of sale device, their checkout experience online, or anything in their back office, how money gets wired and settled, operating regs, etc. And for consumers, once they have our product, they're familiar with shopping everywhere Visa is accepted, which is essentially everywhere. And from a Visa perspective, I think they like the fact that we're innovating on top of their platform and don't see a need to disintermediate them in the transaction.
So just in case we have listeners who are not familiar with the concept of a fintech company, tell them a little bit about what makes you a fintech company.
The fintech company is the combination of financial services and technology. So a fintech company is typically a technology-oriented company that is looking for ways to improve financial services and products in people's lives, whether they be consumer or commercial. And our background, the team's background and my background, is such that we blend those two things together quite well. I spent 10 years at a traditional financial services company who was the largest issuer of credit cards in the United States, which was MBNA, prior to its acquisition by Bank of America, and then spent 8 years prior to BlisPay at one of the pioneers of the fintech lending space, even before it was necessarily called that, which was Bill Me Later, subsequently acquired by PayPal, which was an online point-of-sale provider to stores. We thought we had an opportunity to bring it to many more merchants, many more customers in a different mobile-driven way, which is where we combine our technology acumen around mobile and user experiences with our financial services background in lending and credit cards.
So do you think that those people that are signing up for your program, are they consolidating their purchases from other credit cards and using your program as a primary source, or are they still using their American Express or MasterCard or whatever?
We're seeing both types of behavior, but more and more it's the first, which is instead of using the credit card they've become used to using, they're migrating that spend to our product and moving up their order values as a result as well, because they have the more optionality and time to pay it off. We don't think we're yet in a place where we're taking 100% of someone's spend. We do think we're capturing share away from their existing card providers.
So how much do you think your average transaction has gone up?
So our average transaction is about 2 times the industry norm on a full transaction basis. So when you put together all the $5 lattes and all the wedding dresses and laptops and bicycles, et cetera, we're seeing a transactional average that's twice the card average, nearly $200.
So you think that's because of your value proposition?
Yeah, that's because we're capturing. Yes, that's right. So we're capturing more of the bigger ticket purchases, which really isn't just taking it from your bank card, but where a lot of those transactions happen today is actually not on your bank card. It's actually with a store card. So if you're a bridal shop and you're a Main Street bridal shop and you survived all the retail disruption of the last decade, you're still losing sales to the national chain is somewhere down the road, because that national chain has a store card that can offer financing. We enable that bridal shop to now pull that customer back because they can offer financing as well. So we're pulling some bigger ticket purchases away from the store card and then taking the bank card transactions the customers were making as well.
So let's look at where you're a year and a half old. Where do you think the company goes from here?
Well, we are just getting started. So in 2017, for us, it was about getting real merchant adoption, starting to really understand consumer behavior after we acquire them, to validate our platform and our business models. We are a venture-backed company, so it's important for us to make sure we understand all of that as we approach the capital markets. But at 1,000 stores, we are really just getting started. There are hundreds of thousands of stores that could benefit from a program like this and millions of consumers, across trillions of dollars of spend. So our plans for 2018, 2019, 2020 is to continue to drive our product to merchants who could really benefit from it, and in the process, get our product in the hands of consumers who really could benefit as well. We are maniacally focused on improving merchant-driven point-of-sale finance products.
Okay. We have a similar background. I worked as a consultant for a large labor union who had an affinity card, in fact, the largest one for MBNA America, and negotiated 2 contract renewals and billions of dollars.
Yes.
One of the things that... Pardon?
No, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was one of the strategies that MBNA used to grow its business was to acquire existing portfolios. Is that on your plate?
I don't think you're right. It was, but it was a strategy that came later, not sooner. So I don't see that in the 1 to 3 year horizon. Now, in the 3 to 5 year horizon, and as you know, renewal cycles are typically 4 to 6 years. So as bigger as other store programs come up for renewal, you look out 3, 4, 5 years. I'd like to think we'll have the scale and the platform to potentially participate or look to acquire those types of take advantage of those types of opportunities. In the here and now, this is about serving those who aren't served today on the merchant side.
So how do you acquire a customer today? What's your process?
I'm going to define customer as merchant.
Okay.
It's similar to how MBA acquired group relationships, and then we leverage those group relationships to acquire customers. Our focus is actually on acquiring merchant partners, and our merchant partners help us acquire actual consumers, people using cards. We use a variety of methods, but primarily we've been using some well-placed articles, coverage by folks like yourselves to get the word out to merchants that we can help. And we have a very healthy inbound flow of merchant partners who are looking to take advantage of our no incremental cost, no integration solution that allows them to level the playing field with the bigger box stores down the street. We also participate in some events, trade shows and whatnot, and do a little bit of online marketing as well. But highly organic growth to date, and we look to continue to get the message out and drive efficient merchant acquisition. Once we have a merchant partner, it's really about giving them the tools to merchandise the availability of financing. And the only reason it makes sense for a merchant to launch a program like ours is to make sure they let their customers know about it. Once they do that, whether it be in-store through hang tags or signs on top of appropriately priced products, or ideally even out of store, whether it's through social channel or if they're still doing circular inserts on the Sunday paper, radio spots, whatever it might be, is they start seeding that financing is now available there. That pulls customers in. The in-store merchandise drives them to apply on the phone, and then we have a customer. The store has a incremental sale, and the customer themselves has more time to pay and some cash back.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
So the advantage to the merchant is that an average larger ticket sale, and they don't have to change their card machine or anything. Process is just like anything else. They get a larger sale, which makes them more profitable per transaction.
That's exactly right, Dan. They put up signs or content online without having to do any technical integration whatsoever, and they don't. There's no incremental cost. The cost is whatever they're already paying to process a Visa transaction.
Right. So let me. I guess the only way to say this is put you on the spot. If I haven't already, this will put you on the spot. There are a lot of people that are concerned that the Retail Merchants Association is projecting that for 2017, 8,500 storefronts will close, from big box stores to independents, and that we may have a situation this year that the Christmas sales on internet may actually equal to or greater than what's done in the stores. If your business model is tied to storefronts, aren't you taking a lot of risk there?
Well, so a couple of ways to respond to that. One is a unique thing about our solution. It is a true omni-channel solution. So we work with full omni-channel partners. We work with offline only, and we work with online only. And the trend is certainly not to be either only, right? So there are Main Street stores figuring out how to liquidate inventory online, and the true online players are grabbing footprints offline. Smaller footprints often, but still creating an offline footprint. So we think there's good mitigation because we cover across all channels. And while certainly physical retail continues to be disrupted and have share taken away from it, and you probably have a better stats than I do, so I'll use a conservative one. My guess is when all the dust settles and we start 2018, online spend will still be less than 20% of total spend in the U.S. So, meaning 80 cents of every dollar will still be spent by someone in a storefront handing over some payment method, whether it be swiping Apple Pay or handing literal cash. So we don't see it as a business risk per se, and if anything, we see it as a tool to help the offline stores looking for an edge to potentially compete, and if not, turn the tide, because certainly it's not a single tool that will turn the tide, help stem it a little bit.
So if we look at the retail season, Macy's just reported third quarter earnings that were just terrible. The stock dropped 5% when the earnings were announced, and so it's questioning what kind of a Christmas season we're going to have, which I find interesting because the consumer enthusiasm and consumer sentiment is going through the roof because people think that Mr. Trump is turning things around. But the retailers are concerned, and I wonder if the retailers are more concerned about their store sales as opposed to their online sales.
I would venture to guess they're worried about losing their sales. Anywhere they might lose them, but in the case of iconic brands or once iconic brands like Macy's, I'd imagine it's physical store sales. I think Nordstrom's just came out with a pretty dreadful report not that long ago. Yeah, I'm sure it's the physical sales that are that have the most concern. And then the holiday season is much like they say the lines are blurring between offline and online. I think the lines between holiday and near holiday are blurring as well as online has made it so frictionless. I haven't done a study on this, so this is just Greg thinking out loud. My guess is you're seeing gifts queue up in the house more than each year, a little bit more, so the season is getting spread out more and more. Perhaps the household.
I walked into CVS over the weekend here on Sanibel, and great big Santa Clauses for sale, Christmas trees, all kinds of ornaments and decoration. Not even Thanksgiving. We're a week from Thanksgiving, and they're moving. I'm assuming they're doing the same thing in the big box stores in the malls. And
they're discounting earlier, so they don't have the margins to carry them. I think the whole thing is getting disrupted. And to the question of risk, though, I think the consumer's still going to spend $5 to $6 trillion this year. I don't know what the exact number is. And as a business, we think we can capture a piece of that. It doesn't have to be a big piece, thankfully. To have a good business, and hopefully help the merchants along the way. That's really our mission.
Dan, I'd like to jump in and ask Greg a different question. Greg, what made you get into this business? This was a question that came across my computer just now from a listener.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I after school spent the first 10 years of my career in a very consumer-centric credit card issuer, MBNA, which we just talked about. And then I spent 8 years with Bill Me Later and PayPal. And through those two organizations, which were really great organizations, and really flew in the face of some of the skepticism around consumer lending, I learned that there's a real way to help merchants and consumers with the same financial product, and I just thought there was a very underserved market. So my training and background, if you will, sort of set me up to start a company like this, and my belief that there was a really underserved part of the market, online and offline, but really offline being completely underserved, mid-market to small stores, when you run the numbers, leads to a really big opportunity if you can build a product that satisfies both sides of that transaction. So in many ways, it was a lifelong journey.
Well, it's certainly interesting. I have one more question, then Dan can come in with the final one. But isn't it, people are worried that we're extending too much credit to Americans, and then we'll eventually hit another bubble. How do you guard against giving too much credit to someone who's sitting there in the store and denying that credit to him or her at a time when the sale is almost made for the store owner?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm old enough now to have been through a couple cycles, downturns, and hopefully the most recent one was truly a once-in-a-100-year type of downturn. You know, our center of lending here at BlisPay is really focused on prime consumers, which are they're not recession-proof, but they're certainly have less impact in a downturn. And what it means to be a prime customer is that you've shown responsibility on average for us over a period of 15 years. You've shown the ability to manage credit responsibly. We're not aggressive lenders. We don't lend in the subprime or what they call the near prime buckets, which is where at downturns the most egregious things tend to happen. And our average credit lines are measured in single thousands of dollars versus when the mortgage industry gets aggressive, their average loans are $200,000, $250,000. So the leverage effect is exponentially greater. It's the hardest thing we do is making a determination if someone is creditworthy or not relative to our standards, and we manage the risk appropriately. Especially given our size, we're not a bank institution with super low cost deposits and millions of customers. So if we make a mistake, we feel it on the lending side. If a bank makes a mistake, as we witnessed in 2008, they have other products to prop them up. And in the case of 2008, even the government got involved. So we're trying to be very conservative, middle of the fairway underwriters, using technology and distribution to create a better product and a sustainable business for us.
Dan, you get to ask the last question.
Okay. I'm going to split it into two pieces real quick. Do you have any other MBNAers on your staff?
I do.
Okay. One of the things. Good.
Sorry.
Given what's going on, I'm curious as to whether or not you were talking about the risk with Don, and you're doing less. Do you think that the equity partners who are providing funding for your fintech lending have the patience to watch things develop?
I think that when we raise capital, the most important thing we look for is actually finding the right partner. Ultimately, the cash is fungible, and fortunately, I've been blessed where I've been able to keep true to this, which is finding partners that understand the business we're in and understand the cycles and how the business operates. And so far, we've been lucky, and we've picked and our desire is to continue to pick investors who can be patient with us and let us build value over the long haul. What's great about this market is its sheer size. So it is a huge consumer market. Lending is a big part of that market, and it's not anywhere near a winner-take-all market. So those are all things working in our favor to acquire capital from folks who understand liquidation, maybe 3, 5, 7, maybe even 10 years down the road. But the size of that will be worth the wait. That's the intent. That's the plan anyway.
Greg, it's been great having you on. I'll throw it back to Don.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Dan. Great talking to you.
Well, Greg, really thank you. We've been talking with Greg Lisiewski. He's founder and CEO of BlisPay. Greg, once again, your website for people?
BlisPay.com. BLISPAY.
Thank you so much for being with us, Greg. Thank you, and have a great new year.
You too, Don. Thanks. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.